Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. I am so honored and grateful that you are tuning in, but I have to ask for your help. I'm going to pull an NPR. If you'd like to help the show, you can donate to the show at emmettmuckles.com/donate, or just visit emmettmuckles.com. Follow the link in the menu to the donate page where you can make a donation of your choice. Thank you.
Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with Emmett Muckles, Emmett, and friends. What I do is I find things that are in my cranium, and then through the cosmos and inquiry, I bring those people to me. They share their perspective, which is our perspective. Remember, we are billionaires. We are like cells in the body. As above, so below. If you go out into the cosmos, you see all these little dots. If you come down deep into us, you see these little dots. If you look at a universe, you will see galaxies. If you come down into us, you will see little galaxies and systems that work in harmony. That's why when you're sick, they call it dis-ease. So if you live in harmony, you can never be in dis-ease. Remember, you are a billionaire. 30 days after your inception, when 2 became 4, 4 became 8, up to the day 30, you were over a billionaire, billion cells, and you hadn't hit the planet. Got my message out for today. Today I have a returning guest, and I love speaking to this woman because we share an eternal flow. Wendi Dumbroff. Hi, Miss Wendi.
Hi, Emmett, thank you so much for having me back, and I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, I always am internally inquiring about the state of us as individuals, but we have different energies related to who we are. It used to be we were male and female. Now we are they, we're them, we're he, she, shim, however you want to be. To me, but we are physical beings we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, but sometimes our spirituality doesn't jive with the physical representation that we are on this planet. In that, in the past, we were he and she, came the yin and yang, which is the attraction. And with the attraction comes sex, comes power, comes all these things. And a couple of years ago, and we're just going to go down this track, which is we were talking about the Me Too movement. And all of a sudden it went under the radar because of the politics that were happening in this country. What is the state of Me Too at this moment in 2021? And I hate dating a podcast, but I got to.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a really good question. What did happen to it? Was it just a phase? People have these short memories of what happens in the news, the 24-hour news flash, and then there could be these horrendous things, and then there's something more horrendous the next day, and all of a sudden it's gone. So short memories perhaps in the news, but living within people, the Me Too movement is still very much a piece of who so many people who live with sexual abuse have.
You know, we always thought about sexual abuse as a forced encounter. And what I mean by forced encounter is something violent, something so egregious that I don't even want to say, the word that represents it. But it's more subtle than that now. We are, it can be verbal. And I'm just going to take this back. remember when, I don't know how old you are, but I've got some years on me, but they used to say sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Go to today, like if you think about the book, The Coddling of the American Mind, now words are actually an assault equated with physical violence. The reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of that lends itself to the Me Too movement, or the claims and accusations that women were making against some men. You very rarely heard it, except for Terry Crews. He said, like, he was actually assaulted. How did this come about? Where, it used to be like, you can call me anything you want. As long as you don't touch me, we're good.
Yeah. So how did it come about that the words became so powerful?
Yeah, because someone like, let's say, you're a nice looking woman, and I see you in the grocery store, and I come up to you and say, I really want to, and I'm making sexual innuendo, and
I see that.
And you can take that as a actual assault. I mean, like, prosecutable assault, especially if we're in the workplace and I'm your boss and I'm a heterosexual cisgender male and attracted to you, but I just don't have the social skills to navigate.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that is about boundaries. And I think boundaries are something that I talk about a lot in my work with couples, and especially where there's been some sort of betrayal or and you hear these stories a lot. People spend a lot of time at work.
Yeah.
It's a good example. And there are people they may be attracted to at work, and there are little things that may develop. But work is work. And if you're a married person at work and the other person, and you're first of all, you're crossing the boundary of, if you're in a monogamous relationship, you're crossing that boundary. You're crossing the boundary of work social, but okay, two single people meet at work. That happens all the time too. You're also crossing a boundary if someone says, no, I don't want this, or they give you the indication, thanks, but no thanks, either verbally or with their body language, like, sorry, not interested.
Right.
And that person keeps coming after them. It's also the way somebody may come after another person. It's like that. If you get that creepy feeling, that feeling that just like, this doesn't feel so good, this doesn't feel right. He looked at me a little, he's been looking at me weird, he or she's been looking at me weird, or they've been looking at me weird. There are, look, so much of our communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
And even body language can tell us things. And so, and I think there's also a level to which it's gotten to the point where you have to be so hypervigilant about what you say, because you never know if someone will mistakenly think something, or if you're going to tell an off-color joke, like, think twice before you do that in the workplace. I think people do have to sort of tighten their boundaries. Maybe the pendulum is shifting all the way to the one side of really tight boundaries and nothing, and we all feel like robots walking around and, say this, say that. But maybe it had to, because there was so much crossing of the boundaries. Yeah. And I'll be sexist in saying, women in the workplace had very little power. I've heard stories from women my age. I'm well into my 50s, back in the 80s, working in their corporations and really having no recourse against the powerful men in their corporations who were constantly coming after them.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I had an experience. I was in Europe one time, and I'm on this beach, and all of a sudden everyone takes their clothes off. And I am the only guy sitting there, or only person sitting there with clothes on there. And it took me about 5 minutes before I bare it all, because I started to realize something. It was not a sexual thing. The body is not a sexual thing. which over the last couple of years, I reflect on that experience. And I realize as I look at Instagram, as I look at television, clothes are made to sexualize in this society. Do you think that is lending itself, or the propagation of sex is lending itself to a lot of this miscommunication and this decorum? Because there's this, and I'm rambling a little bit, but I want to get this information in. I talked to a guy about sex addiction, and he was saying that he was in a class with where he was speaking, and he said, and he had a bunch of women in there, and he sat down and talked with them. And he said, there's one thing that came out. He was like, women do not want a virgin man because he's learned all his sex from media and porn, which is 180 degrees out from a healthy relationship. So give me your opinion regarding the over-sexualization and where we are now with like clothing and presentation and all that stuff.
So you said so many things that
I know
buzzwords for me. So I'm going to speak to this. First of all, I don't necessarily believe in sexual addiction. This is a whole separate topic, but there is a whole new school of thought, and I really look at people with, as per the people who developed this phrase, Doug Braun Harvey and Michael Vigorito, out of control sexual behaviors. And if you look at that, it's really all just like if someone's drinking too much, or someone is getting violent, or someone is shutting down, right? It is a symptom of something that happened to them and connected to something that happened to them. And it's usually not about the sex, but somehow the coping mechanisms became sexualized. So that's just an aside for that. And I forgot your initial question already.
No, I was just really it related to, this is my thing. I see clothing now as a sexualization of the body, because the way clothes are now presented, they focus in on an area. For instance, now you probably wear these and they're super comfortable, but yoga pants. Yoga pants used to be for yoga. Now you see a large majority of females who are wearing yoga pants as blue jeans or anything else. Now, if you on the surface, they're workout clothes that don't restrict movement. When you take them out of the context, if you paint them the color of someone's skin, you would think someone's nude.
Right. Tight fitting.
A lot of times, like my wife, I was like, do you have underwear on? She's like, yeah. I was like, I can't tell with those yoga pants on. You know what I'm saying? So I think about these little bitty things in our over sexualization, in the way our community, we don't have community anymore. So for young men, you don't have someone older saying, that's not how you act. For women, you don't have a male figure that they can look up to and say, that's what I'm supposed to aspire to. For women, I said this when I got my divorce. I'm talking a lot today.
That's okay. That's all right. People tend to do that around me.
I said this when I got divorced because I start seeing it. I start seeing that, I'm in my 50s as well. When I was in my 40s then, and I start seeing the competition for my male energy, which was women from 22 up to women who are 60. So you never used to have grandma and the granddaughter competing for the same resources.
Yes. It's an interesting change.
But you see it online too, because if you go online, I'm into fitness, so I type in fitness, and a lot of times women are into fitness. And a lot of other things come along with that. You just get a barrage of bodies. And it used to be you get this
Yeah.
young model kind of looking. Now it's everybody. And the sexualization of that is there's a lot of things that are in this universe that don't make sense.
Yes.
What have you been seeing over the last 12 months because of COVID related to people's pent up sexual frustrations or with people that they don't really want to be with, because before they had time apart, now they're stuck with this person. They're like, God, you suck.
Yeah. COVID has brought in a whole new realm of issues, right? From everything, especially even if you think just about people working from home, being together 24/7, having the kids home, homeschooling.
Yeah.
You used to leave, go to your office, or if you were home working, other people left.
Yeah.
They came and went. And now everybody's sharing space. So there's, even this morning here in my home, I had to make sure, okay, nobody come into my office at home because I'm going to be busy and I really need quiet here. And I don't have young children. Right. And I think sex has definitely been impacted because relationally things have been impacted. Some people, however, there are some couples I talked to that said, things actually got a little better because of COVID. Things were just kind of calmed down and we didn't have to worry so much about everything and where we're going, and life just calmed down a lot. But usually after the initial period where things may calm down, the extended period, couples are still in their same, we still interact with each other the same way. Right. I always talk about the cycles that couples get into and how one person gets triggered. They do something that activates the other person's trigger, that does something that reactivates their partner again, and they get caught in a loop. Now, usually that comes with all the distractions of life. But without all the distractions of life and the support systems of life, parents coming in and the worries about COVID and the anxiety created by having this global pandemic, and it has removed some of the ways people were able to cope. They get out for a few hours, they come back, they saw some friends, they talk, they calm down. I'm sorry, I did this or this, but that's not there. And so that also definitely impacts intimacy, because when couples are in more conflict, intimacy is doesn't always work this way. Sometimes, make up sex or just being angry doesn't stop people from having sex. But most times I find that it does.
I did this little experiment. My wife and I did this experiment, and we started to drift. We don't drift very far because we're so close. We notice when there's small drifts happening. And usually it's when we have not been intimate. As soon as we have, it's like there was a missing piece in it. It clicks back together. Mm. And we're not like jibbing each other so much. Like the little things that we're manifesting, because everybody has something about their partner that they just makes them grunt. Like, I can't stand when you do that. But then when you get that oxytocin key, that little thing goes back down and you're like, okay, I can deal with this. Because I always say that's what marriage is about. I can deal with your bullshit and you can deal with
Yes, I agree.
So in the last 6 months or almost a year now, how have you seen your practice change in relationship to when we were freer in our mobility? Have you seen an increase, or have you seen it just shift because it's related to this time spent together?
Yeah, I think both. I think there is a huge demand for mental health practitioners right now. I mean, I'm booked, completely booked, and as are many of my colleagues, and uh, and part of it is, I believe, in part because of what has been going on in the world, or and I think perhaps the time together also allows couples to see perhaps some of the fractures that are there that were sort of easier to kind of not pay attention to when we have the normal things in our daily life. The huge change in my practice is that everything has been virtual. And of course, you miss so much when you talk to people, rather it being face to face and seeing their movements and, seeing feeling it in the room, versus seeing, there still is a lot you can get when you talk to people online, but there's a lot that you miss too. There's a lot that you don't get. So that's been a huge change on my end.
Have you had clients who are single females over the age of 40? And the reason I ask this is because, like I said, I got a divorce some years ago, but I was really open to what my ex-wife was going through. And I had taken a little bit of emotion out of it. And I said, "You sure this is what you want to do?" And she said, "Yeah, why are you so concerned?" I was like, "I'm really not concerned about our relationship. I'm concerned about you. Because here's one thing that I know, that typically when women divorce, their quality of life suffers for it." And I knew some things about my wife that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me like I was a total alien. And I was like, "Okay, I'll let you do what you want to do." And this is the reason I'm asking you if you've seen an uptick in single women over a certain age, is because, when you're by yourself, you don't have anyone to confide in, or the way that the attention for compatibility or companionship is often based on young certain looks, and men are programmed with that. So a lot of women can be very lonely. A lot of women can be sexually frustrated because they can't find a partner. And I was wondering if you've had an influx of clients that reflect that ideology.
I have not had an influx of like middle-aged single women.
Right.
But maybe that's more because I focus a lot on couples work, although I do work with individuals as well. Mm-hmm. But I hear what you're saying. And I have worked with people who are single, maybe not in that age space right now. I have some younger single female clients, but it is difficult because just not having the social norms of their life, being alone, not having someone to hang out with or talk to, or as you say, just there to sit and have dinner with, to say, "Oh, look at that news story on TV. What do you think of that?"
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's younger people, middle-aged people, or older people, especially the older people, where their families have to be disconnected for their safety. I mean, with my mom, I know she would be here for dinner a lot, and, holidays or family get-togethers, and she's in her 80s, and I don't want to endanger her. So all that social and family connectedness goes, and it's very hard. Yeah. It's very, I'm sure, very lonely for these people that are home alone, men and women.
Yeah. You say that probably many of your couples are in I'd say mid-30s or
30s, 40s, 50s. So actually, I've had the whole gamut: 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Yeah.
With the 20s and 30s, Do you find they have a different understanding of intimacy, or is it as mature, or is it less mature than one would think?
Oh, it obviously it depends on the people.
Yeah.
I think that, you get to much younger people. You mentioned something before about like porn and they want what they
Yeah.
think they see on porn, and that's not reality. That's not life. But I do hear that sometimes with younger couples that they want, that one partner may think that this is the kind of sex that their wife should be having, and that's not what they want. Um, so that's definitely there, and I think that there is I wouldn't say no across the board that there's a maturity based on sexual intimacy across the board. I think there are younger couples that are very open and connected, and there are older couples that have never been able to be open and connected.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
it's life. It's more about life experience, and it's so much about the messages we got about sex as we were growing up from our society, from our culture, from our churches and synagogues, from our parents. Is so much is about the messages from our experiences. Going back to the Me Too movement, for example, if someone has a history of sexual abuse, there could be a lot of shame around sex. So no matter what age you are, if that hasn't been processed and brought out, and had a chance, and you haven't turned towards it and open to it and understood the impact and recognized that it wasn't your fault, right? And that the shame belongs not to you, but to the person who perpetrated those crimes. There can be a huge impact. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily an intimacy maturity as much as our history and the meaning of intimacy and sex for people.
Awesome. With abuse, so abuse can manifest in a myriad of ways. So you can see it where someone has suffered sexual abuse, so they are leery and have an abstinence approach. And then you have the very other where someone needs to validate themselves because they were sexually abused, so they're over sexual. How do you, on either side of that, how do you identify that and relate it to the sexual abuse? Because not many people just come out and go, I was sexually abused. It usually manifests in actions.
Right. So, when you hear something like that, where someone is really being overly sexual, or there's anxiety around sex, or worries around sex, or shame around sex, or hesitancy around sex, I do really deep, intricate sexual histories with people. And so I really try and learn everything in their history that they learned, their sexual and relational histories, and all the messages they got, and to slowly begin to ask the questions, to open a space that hopefully they will be able to share. No, not like day one that I meet them. Oh yeah, so, what happened to you kind of thing. No, of course not. It's a very sensitive topic. And, I'm always so honored, really, in a room with my clients on any day, but certainly when somebody shares such a deep pain and painful experience that they've had that maybe they've never spoken about before. So that is something. And then we understand it together. We unpack it and we understand. And it kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier, like people who may be identified as sexual addicts. How did that experience of their childhood impact them as a sexual being? And how what some may call an addiction is a symptom of something that has happened to them. Yeah. And it's an attempt to repair, an attempt to cope, an attempt to feel control. If someone perhaps has some out of control sexual behavior and they couldn't control their body as a child, even that their body felt arousal as a child, you can't help what your body feels. Yeah. Doesn't mean you want what's happening, but maybe in their attempts to have sex with lots of people, they're taking control over their body versus, but that's all unconscious. So helping someone understand the unconscious, how the unconscious is playing and bringing that more into their conscious knowing is a way to really help them heal and understand.
What are some of the techniques you use to help people be mindful of what they are experiencing or what their partner's experiencing? Because if maybe, let's say that my wife is a very healthy sexual person, spiritually, mentally, and physically, but yet I have some baggage and insecurity and I'm not quite there. And she's, that can make or break. You're like, this person is just not on my level. I need to get rid of this relationship. And I'm ignorant. So,
yeah.
So like, and it's mostly, and those who are typically ignorant of something don't know that they're ignorant.
Yeah, of course. And it's not ignorance. It's just that certain things may have been compartmentalized, pushed aside, not dealt with, and they play in the unconscious. And you don't know why you don't want to have sex, or you don't know why you have anxiety around sex, or you don't know why you pull back and you're not going to allow yourself to lose control and have an orgasm with your partner. It's not necessarily ignorance. It's that something. It generally makes sense, right? I really believe that the things that happen to people, whether it's during sex or during an argument or the things that they do, make sense when you look at their history and say, oh, of course you do it this way. Of course you get anxious in sex because look what happened to you. Yeah. But that does not mean that you can't work with that. And so I think I hear you asking, what about the partner who's just looking at their partner and saying, hey, what's up? Why aren't you open to this? And I think a lot of education for the partner on that, the partner that hasn't perhaps been abused or had some messages given to them about sex being bad or shameful, needs to understand what it's like for someone who especially has been through abuse, because and they have to have patience and allow their partner to sort of run the show, set the pace. Yeah. Right? Because one person is the hare and they're saying boom, 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 let's go. And the other person is the tortoise, and they're going a little bit slower. And so I think also having empathy for their partner and recognizing that they went through things that were beyond their control. And for the partner that has experienced the abuse to really begin to get in touch with what's happening in a very mindful way. And that's when to notice, so that when you can open some space, like for example, someone just gets anxious and says, no more sex, let's stop, right? Versus anxiety comes in, to be able to pause with that anxiety and say, okay, this is what I noticed. I noticed all of a sudden I got really tense. I noticed my body felt tensed. I noticed I had thoughts about, I want to stop. I noticed I felt scared. To be able to then open to that, right, and begin to unpack that. Yeah. And I think in those cases, it is really useful for someone to have a therapist to help them as they become more aware of what's happening to them. And then also recognizing that the partner with them now is not their abuser. Now, intellectually, we can know that, but our body remembers something very different. And that's where patience comes in on their part of the abuse survivor's partner, to really understand that this person has had a different journey, and they need this through no fault of their own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing with that, it came to mind as you were speaking. It made me think of something, and I've seen this not only in my own life, but I've seen it in the lives of others around me historically. Is you meet someone, you have a good rapport with them, and then you elevate your relationship to a sexual one, and it's just turbo. And everybody thinks this is the norm. And then they're like, let's become a partnership for life. And then soon after that, everything changes.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, wait. When we were just dating and a couple, everything was good. Now that we've signed this contract, all this stuff, has that manifested? You just look like that sounds familiar.
Like in everybody. That's very common. So common. And you used a good word. We've signed this contract, that this contract makes us family.
Right.
And along with being family comes all the meanings of family and everything. Everyone has that phase, that initial phase, that like, oh wow phase. Not everyone, but usually there's that beginning phase, and that doesn't last for anybody. I mean, that's just, it's a myth that can really last in that sort of just infatuation and my partner can do no wrong. I mean, obviously that settles down, and then you think, okay, do I still like this person? Is there more good than bad? Do we connect? Are we willing to hear each other and respect each other, and all of that? And as you said, we all have something we don't like about our partner earlier, right? But yes, and so again, it is unpacking the meaning. So, for example, a man who suddenly doesn't want to have sex with his wife, young couple, right? He suddenly doesn't want to have sex with his wife, but now it's no longer his sexy girlfriend, it's his wife and the mother of his children. And what does that mean, right? Unconsciously to him. Why is it that he's not moving towards her? There's so many things it could be, right? It could be that, again, now we're with family. This is a man. My husband is a man. I was abused by my stepfather or my sibling or my, uncle or something. And all of that can come back in. One of my mentors in the sex therapy field, her name is Suzanne Iasenza. She's brilliant. She has a new book out. And she says that all sex is group sex. And she says, if we think it's just the two of us in the bed, it may look like the two of us, but every member of our world that has brought up the messages is right there with us, laying out. And when we sign that contract, all of a sudden we're family.
Even our parents are there.
Our parents are there in the biggest way, and it's like, no, the last place you want your parents, but. Yeah, they're there. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things are coming to light now. We have historically thought of the victim in sexual abuse as women. But now we're finding out that men are being sexually abused by women in this, or suffering abuse, physical abuse, violence, things of this nature. Yes. But because of this puritanical society that we live in, this programming, this firmware, a lot of men will just keep that because there's a shame that's going with it, and it will not come out. And also, that firmware has caused a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But can you just give me a few general things that someone should be mindful of when they're in a relationship and they want to keep your relationship healthy? Because you really made me think of something like, I get married. Now I see this woman as like my mom or my aunt, or
But not consciously,
Yeah.
right? It can be very unconscious and not knowing and playing in the background. Yeah. So I hear you asking, I just want to
This is
clarify
some
your question.
mindfulness for keeping a healthy sexual and
Yeah.
spiritual relationship.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's so much of what I try to foster for people. So I think awareness is key. And mindfulness is awareness. Mindfulness is just like awareness of what's happening for me in this moment, right? And even if it's something like, oh, I really like when my partner touches me there or does a certain, particular, or uses their mouth on me in different places, but I don't want to, it feels shameful to say that,
Yeah.
right? And so just noticing, oh, that there's shame there. Feels shameful to say that I like that because maybe I shouldn't like that, or maybe he'll think I'm weird because I like that. But even just to open to that shame, because if the shame takes over, or feelings that whatever you've been taught, sex is man, woman, missionary, this is what it is, that's it, right? And pleasure, who cares, right? About pleasure, that's what it is. Then you go right to shutting down, and you never communicate and talk about your needs and what you like and what you want. And you don't, but if you can get in touch with, oh, there's something that's stopping me, and not stopping there, opening up some space there where you can begin to examine, why is it that I feel shame about that?
Yeah.
Why is it that I don't want to talk to my partner? So I think awareness is the most key thing. We can't change anything we're not aware of, but it's easy to say, oh, communicate openly, but how do you do that?
Yeah.
And I think you really have to be aware of where the blocks show up. Or I want to say this to my partner. And as well, turning in and saying, oh, for example, like maybe someone who's had sexual abuse, but they have blocked it out, right? But they still notice they get anxious during sex, to turn in and say, okay, I noticed that this is here. Let me get in touch with it. Let me begin to turn towards it at their pace. Again, I would not want anyone to put themselves in a place of trauma, right? But to slowly turn towards it and begin to open up and unpack the anxiety that shows up during sex that makes them want to step back from it.
If you were to have a platform, or if you were to like get on this big giant jumbotron and let everybody know that we all have issues, what would you say we all should do? And I know this. We have to be mindful, but not a lot of people know what mindfulness is.
Yeah.
So how would you tell them to approach what mindfulness is in their day-to-day life?
Such a good question. You can, mindfulness is moment-to-moment awareness, right? Whether meditation is a formal practice of mindfulness where we intentionally set aside time. But I know that everyone listening is going to say, oh, yeah, I'm not going to meditate. But there are ways to cultivate. And I don't mean to minimize meditation. I mean that a lot of people will say that and say, oh, yeah, forget it. But there are ways to practice mindfulness day to day, even if you're just walking to your car or walking down the street. Using your senses, feeling the wind on your face, feeling, the steering wheel in your hand, noticing the smells, noticing what you see, a beautiful flower, a beautiful tree, ugly snow that's covered in in dirt and grime, whatever it is, just taking in the moment. And you can do that with all your senses, observing your thoughts, your emotions. Very importantly, observing the experience in your body. Our body holds so much. But one of the most important things, and one of the things that I would ask people to do, and there's a phrase, it's not mine, but it said that mindfulness is like a bird, right? And a bird has two wings.
Yeah.
one wing is the wing of awareness, to know what is the truth right now in this moment, to honor that truth, to not try and make it any different than it is, right? Oh, shame is here. Oh, can I just be with this shame and not be reactive to it and just unpack it a little bit and look at it? But the second wing of the bird is the loving, non-judgmental, compassionate attention that we bring to whatever is being known. And so it's like, oh, anger is here, shame is here, to not condemn ourselves for that, to not judge ourselves for that, to literally, if we were talking to a good friend who was telling us, or perhaps our child who came and they were sad and we were trying to comfort them, to put our arm around ourselves mentally and say, it's okay. This is what's being known and this is hard for you. So mindfulness is the awareness itself, but it's not complete without the compassionate and loving attention that we bring to whatever is being known.
Awesome. So I know you're booked out, but what if someone really needs to, how can someone get a hold of you or just want to delve more into what you do and works?
Sure. Oh, of course. Yes. So my website is wendydumbroff.therapy.com. I spell Wendy with an I. Nobody does, but you have to talk to my mother about that. Right. And I'm in Madison, New Jersey. And my phone number is 973-937-8651.
That's funny. Everyone else gets your phone number, but I don't have it. I can't even call.
Yes.
Well, I really want to thank you. And so I like the fact, because a lot of people don't talk about sexuality. They don't talk about their fears. And there's one other thing that I wanted to kind of broach, and I alluded to it pre our interview. So I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter, and I follow fitness. I follow a lot of, particularly fitness over 40. Mm-hmm. But then I start getting barraged by these people, particularly women, who I would see they would be in like these workout clothes, or they would be in swimsuits, barely a swimsuit, or lingerie. And then I start noticing this thing that they have this thing called OnlyFans. So I started investigating what this OnlyFans is, and it's basically a cam girl kind of like there's been a rise in it because we are socially distanced, but people still need this sexual connection. So women and men offer these OnlyFans pages for like $5, $10, whatever you can donate. And what really got me is that there are a lot of women who are over the age of 50 who are become basically sex workers for distance people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you been aware of that or seen that impacting anyone's life?
Yes, I have. And I have no judgment on people that are doing that.
Me neither.
No judgment on people that are using that. Usually when it causes a problem, in my office, what I see about that is when it's crossing a boundary in a monogamous relationship. So many partners I'll be heterosexist here. So a wife may not care if her husband is looking at porn, right? Or watching porn. But if it crosses into now a live person, then that for them is a boundary. Wow. So again, when I say that boundaries are really important, and it's something I talk about a lot, and people don't generally talk about things like that when they get married. They don't even necessarily think about it. A couple falls in love and they get married, and then someone has an affair. But what was it okay, what are is this a monogamous relationship, and what does that mean? It's often never spoken about. It's usually never spoken about. And so redefining boundaries becomes very important.
Is there is there a difference between what is considered infidelity or masculine versus feminine? Because, in my mind, if someone is very close mentally and spiritually with someone, that's a breach of a outside of the relationship. Let's say my wife has a male friend that, she confides in things that may not confide with me in. That's a breach. Mm-hmm. But also, on the other side of that, a lot of times when women are sexual with a male, they're like, that's a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Is there a breakdown in some of this stuff too, where it's not so much like the product of no sex is a symptom of something else going on in the relationship? Like this friend that keeps coming around, or he has this female friend at work and he's always talking about her, and yet we're not having sex at home, or, these things here. Mm-hmm. Is that manifesting much?
Yeah, I definitely will see things like that. And again, so you want to find out the blocks to communication are really important. And if that woman is turning toward another man to talk, what's keeping her from turning towards her husband? And what's going on what is the cycle between the husband and wife that's probably, in a way, who knows, maybe the husband shuts down, doesn't want to hear it, the wife gets angry, pursues, the husband shuts down because he doesn't like the angry pursuit. And then she, instead of finding a way to cope, well, maybe I'm making something up, a hypothetical. But it's generally, let's understand this. What keeps you from turning towards your partner? Not only that, but I've had that come up with even a woman's best friend or sister or mother. I've heard men say to me, I wish she would talk to me the way she talks to her sister, right? But she always tells her sister everything. And again, so what keeps a couple from turning towards each other, right? Not that it's sexual, that's not a sexual breach, but still there's someone there. It's an emotional breach. Why don't you turn towards me and tell me these things?
Is there a compartmentalization? Because I've done this in my life as a younger person. I've compartmentalized relationships in this. There is someone I want to be sexual with, but we are spiritually and mentally not on the same level. There's this other person that I love to talk to, I love to hang out with, but I don't want to have sex with them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we can think that because we've been intimate physically with each other, that constitutes a relationship, but that's only a fraction of it. Do you see that where that is the manifestation of what's going on in a relationship? They're physically connected, but they're not truly emotionally connected.
Yeah. I think a lot of times what I see is I will often see a couple, oh no, we get along here. Even if they come in for conflict issues or something's, they're not getting along so well in some way or another, it doesn't necessarily mean that the sex will follow, right? If they resolve that and they kind of understand each other more, it doesn't necessarily mean that sex just comes along for the ride. And that's a whole parallel journey to take with them as you sort of understand their relationship. But I hear what you're saying. There's some people that we find attractive and sexy and we may fantasize about them, or if we're in a position to even have sex with them. But again, understanding the boundaries, right? There's nothing wrong with fantasizing if you find someone attractive. But what's in one's head is very different than if you're actually going out and doing it. in a monogamous relationship, right? Because not everyone has a monogamous relationship, and that's okay too. Yeah. When I talk about boundaries, I mean the boundaries that are set up for each unit, whether that unit is 2 people or 3 people, or they have a whole pod. And then even within that, what are the boundaries within those relationships?
That gets messy.
It can get messy, but for the people that's their style, that's their preference, as long as it's all consensual, right? Then, and has its boundaries and limits.
Well, awesome. I want to thank you so much. I value you immensely and your knowledge and what you bring to the table. So thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It's always so nice to talk with you. You are truly a wonderful person.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, funny, I just said in Toastmasters. They dinged me for that. But I want to tell you this. What we really have to do is we have to think about it from this point of view. You are here to have an experience to interact with physical beings. With that, we were given free will. We are given the free will to be egoic and selfish, or we could be like Jesus and Buddha. We could give of ourselves for the greater community. Your community operates because you participate within the community. You don't participate from outside the community and force your way in. This is what America was slated to be. It didn't start off that way because the language was not clear. But we're rapidly moving towards that. And we have to get rid of some of the old paradigms to move into the new utopia. Which means, just like a caterpillar has to shed its skin so it can fly, we have to shed some of the old things, which means we can't necessarily always think about ourselves. I want you to think about a mom with a new baby. I want you to be a mom with a new baby, and the new baby is our society, which means you have to really love it. Even though the baby may puke on you, you know that you have enough love to clean that puke up and get back on track. Even though that this thing is trying to ravage, you know you must feed it with the good stuff so that as it matures, it will be as complete as possible. What I am talking about is us. The world is changing. We are getting smaller, but as we grow larger. But for us to prosper, we have to think about our brother and our sister, because we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. We are part of the collective. You are a billionaire. You're one in several billion. But remember, start from the spiritual being inside, manifested on the physical being on the outside for the betterment of all physical beings. Till next time, love you all. Peace.